Thank you, member. Recognizing North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too am looking forward to putting my remarks on Bill 30, Cannabis Control and Licensing Act. And I'd like to make some comments about health effects. And I know that a lot of people think that cannabis is kind of a natural substance, and I know that there is some talk about it helping anxiety or even depression, and certainly I think some physicians are recommending cannabis for reasons such as those. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody was well aware that there are also detrimental and somewhat tragic consequences for some people with the use of cannabis, and particularly in our youth. I didn't have to go very far. I went to the Government of Canada website, Cannabis and Mental Health. And with the mental health effects, which are quite pertinent on their website, it says, and I quote, "In some people, cannabis use increases the risk of developing mental illnesses such as psychosis or schizophrenia, and especially those who start using cannabis at a young age, use cannabis frequently, daily or almost every day, have a personal or family history of psychosis and or schizophrenia. Frequent cannabis use has also been associated with the increased risk of suicide, depression, and anxiety disorders. And there's evidence to suggest that combining tobacco with cannabis can increase the strength of some psychoactive effects, and the risk of poor mental health outcomes, including addiction." And I must say, when I've spoken in my role as the official opposition critic for mental health and addictions, I have spoken to people that have schizophrenia. I've also spoken to parents of children that have severe mental illness, and many of those people say that they're signs of the severe mental illness, and in one case, the diagnosis of schizophrenia was after profound usage of cannabis when they were young. And so I really want to make it clear that that it's not necessarily a panacea for making people, less anxious or whatever. Also, research shows that the brain is not fully developed until age 25. Thus, youth are especially vulnerable to the effects of cannabis on brain function and development. The THC in cannabis affects the same biological system in the brain that directs brain development. And it has been associated with increased risk of harms when it is frequent, continues over time, and as I said before, begins early in adolescence. From the Health Canada fact sheet, they go on to say that cannabis use that begins early in adolescence, that is frequent and that continues over time and has been associated with increased risk of harms. Some of those harms may not be fully reversible. Adolescence is a critical time for brain development, and as research shows, the brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. This is because THC in cannabis affects the same biological system in the brain that directs brain development. In addition, the executive director of the BC Schizophrenia Association, Deborah Connor, has said, and she represents over 3,000 members, she says that they support restricting access to recreational marijuana to anyone under the age of 25, which also echoes the position of the Canadian Psychiatric Association. And then there was an article that was published on June 23rd, 2017, called in the Globe and Mail, "Mental Health Experts Underscore Dangers of Youth Cannabis Use." And Diane McIntosh, who is a professor at UBC, a professor of psychiatry, she's also a psychiatrist and a former pharmacist, says that research has shown heavy cannabis use plays a clear role in the early onset of psychotic disorders, She said, noting schizophrenia can develop up to 6 years earlier in young people who consume the substance regularly. That is the age when a person's brain is considered to have finished developing. And then she goes on to say, if you're 35 years old or older without any mental illness and you want to smoke pot, I don't care, she says. But she's worried about the younger kids, and I am too. So, Chief, among the messages, as she went on to say, is even though a direct link has yet to be proven between using the drug and mental health issues, the evidence shows the substance can trigger psychotic episodes and negatively affect youth with a family history of mental illness such as schizophrenia. So, although I recognize that the age is going to be 19, I caution the provincial government to perhaps consider the words of the experts with regards to youth mental health, at least up to the age of 25. And I would expect then that this government will have a very robust education campaign to be able to educate families, educate parents, as well as youth about the possibility of the increased incidence of mental illness with cannabis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.